World Media ni mo sọ ó ti yá o ká jíjọ máa bọ̀. Yorùbá World Media, ìkànnì tó dúró tán fún jàǹgbara òmìnira ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Yorùbá World Media, ìkànnì tó ń gbẹnu ọmọ Yorùbá sọ̀rọ̀ fún òmìnira ilẹ̀ wa. Yorùbá World Media, ìkànnì tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ sókè fún òmìnira ìran aládé gbogbo. Yorùbá World Media lórí YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Yorùbá World Media, láti darapọ̀ mọ́ wa tàbí tẹ́ ẹ bá fẹ́ bá wa dòwò pọ̀ ní Yorùbá World Media, ẹ kàn sí wa lórí www.yorubaworldmedia.com tàbí kẹ́ fi àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ ṣọwọ́ sí wa látòrí ímeèlì wa info@yorubaworldmedia.com. Yorùbá World Media, ìkànnì tó ń ṣojú ọmọ Yorùbá jákèjádò àgbáyé.
Ọmọ Oòduà dìde, ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀. We greet you to our new episode today on 1988 British-Yorubaland Treaty. Last week we discussed about the importance of these treaties and why the British still keeping us together as one Nigeria, since the Yoruba have the treaty signed by Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ with their British government during the colonization era. So this treaty, it is most important for Yoruba people, son and daughter, to understand what this treaty means. But in order for us to understand this treaty, we need to deeply go into details so that every one of us will understand what this treaty is all about, the importance of the treaties, the merit, and why the Yoruba people should focus on this treaty. And even though we heard that there is a case in court concerning this treaty, that the British must follow this treaty that was signed in 1888. Today, our father is on the program with us that will give us the details about this treaty. We all know our father have been doing well concerning the Yoruba people. Babawa Dr. Olushola Oni, known as Basigun, is on another episode today, Yoruba, importance of Yoruba. Today, we are dig into that treaty deeply, the importance of that treaty. So I will welcome Baba on the board to greet Baba. We are welcome on our new episode today. We welcome Sakai, our followers.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. For your audience who do not know me, my name is Olushola Oni. My chieftaincy title is Bashigun, and my professional title is Doctor. I am the leader of the Yoruba Party in the UK. You can see from my T-shirt. I'm the leader of this party. I'm the founder and the leader of the Yoruba Party in the UK. And we are currently in court in London, in the administrative court in London, where we've taken the British government to court on the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty. Now, one of the things that we've been doing as the Yoruba Party is that we've been taking this case on the road. We've been trying to explain to as many groups as possible about this treaty and so on and so forth. And one of a lot of questions that has arisen has always been, what is the status of Nigeria vis-a-vis the court case that we brought to court? And last week, even on your program, if you remember, some of the questions were about this as well. That Yoruba land is now part of Nigeria, and therefore Nigeria must have some kind of veto. Now, I don't know if you understand the law of treaties. Now, Nigeria was not signatory to the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty. The treaty was signed on the 23rd of July 1888, and it was ratified on the 16th of June 1890. Nigeria did not exist at that time, which means that Nigeria cannot do anything about the treaty because Nigeria is not a party, it's not a signatory to that treaty. The third party rule of treaties says this, that non-signatories to a treaty have no rights or obligations. And the other side of that rule is that third parties like Nigeria must respect treaty realities and not hinder their execution. So that is absolutely clear that Nigeria does not have any legal or constitutional mechanism that it could use to veto the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty. And if Nigeria tries to intervene in the court case that we've brought in London, the court is not going to entertain an amicus brief from Nigeria. As I said, because Nigeria was not party to was not signatory to the treaty. Nigeria was not party to the treaty. Nigeria did not exist when this treaty was signed. So I think it is important for those who keep bringing up this question of Nigeria all the time when we talk about the 1888 treaty, to understand what the international law of treaty actually says. And this is what I've just explained, that if you are not a signatory to a treaty, you actually have no rights and no obligations as far as that treaty is concerned. And the international law expects you as a third party to respect the treaty and not to hinder their execution. So having said that, because really, I mean, if you like, that's the end of the story. The question, does Nigeria have a veto? The answer is no. Under international law, the answer is no, because Nigeria did not sign, Nigeria is not a signatory to the treaty. So the question of Nigeria having a veto does not arise. But I think there are other things that I think it's important for us to explore. One of the first interesting things, so when we are talking about veto, Nigeria has to have an interest before it could be thinking about veto. So if we start with the 1999 Constitution, that Constitution does not mention the word Yoruba or Yoruba land at all. But the amalgamation document, the document that created Nigeria, very, very clearly stated that it incorporated Yoruba land into Nigeria on the 1st of January 1914. So even though the word Yoruba and the word Yoruba land does not appear in the 1999 Constitution, Nigeria could not deny that the Yoruba and their homeland, that is Yoruba land, were a distinct people with a distinct territory within the Nigerian borders. So that's another basic fact that I think we need to understand, that although the Constitution doesn't actually mention Yoruba land. The fact of the matter is that when the incorporation of Nigeria was being made, Yoruba land, Yoruba and Yoruba land were distinctly mentioned. So that's the second thing the second fact. The third fact concerns what the Nigeria has argued in the past before the International Court. I don't know if you know anything about the Bakassi Peninsula case, where Cameroon took Nigeria to court to say that the Bakassi Peninsula, which was part of Nigeria, actually belonged to Cameroon. Now, in Nigeria's argument, Nigeria agreed that there are pre-colonial treaties. There's no argument on that. And whether the treaty was between European or European and Nigerian, a treaty was a valid legal instrument. Nigeria accepted that. So Nigeria cannot now argue differently that the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty was not a valid legal instrument. Remember what I said right at the beginning. The treaty was signed by Queen Victoria of Great Britain and Obadeyemi Alaafin of Oyo on behalf of Yoruba land. They signed the treaty on the 23rd of July, 1888, and they both ratified the treaty on the 16th of June, 1890, which meant that this treaty is a valid legal instrument, and Nigeria cannot deny that. The fourth fact that I think is important that we know when we are discussing this question of whether or not Nigeria had a veto as far as this treaty is concerned, is this question of internal self-determination. You may remember that in 2000, Nigeria permitted the Arewa people to impose the Sharia criminal law on their Arewa territory, even though this violated Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution. So that is an element of self-determination. It's internal self-determination in which Nigeria practically said that yes, you could have Sharia criminal law in your part of Nigeria, not anywhere else, in your part of Nigeria. Having done that, Nigeria cannot now prevent Yoruba land from imposing the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty on Yoruba territory. For Nigeria to prevent the Yoruba from doing what the Arewa people have done would be morally repugnant, and it will be a violation of Section 42 of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution. So that's the fourth fact, that because Nigeria in 2000 or thereabout allowed the Arewa people to impose over and above Nigerian Constitution the Sharia criminal law on their territory, that is a measure of self-determination. And if the Yoruba want to impose the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty on their own territory, on the whole of that, on their own territory, that also ought to be valid under, as I said, under Section 42 of the Nigerian Constitution. The next fact that I think is important to know is the fact that the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty was primarily about trade. I think that is very important, that the treaty was primarily about trade. Now, trade, or the act of conducting, if you want to define trade, it just means the act of conducting business. It is not classified as a property, but several aspects of trade, of commerce, have been classified as intangible property. An intangible property is something that is valuable, but is lacking in physical form. And the interesting thing about the Britain-Yorubaland Treaty is that there are aspects of that treaty that you could say is property belonging to the Yoruba people. So I'm just going to take them one by one. I don't know whether your audience have had access to the treaty itself. If they haven't, and if you remind me, I will send a copy of the treaty to you so you can disseminate it amongst your viewers. So there are aspects of trade of this treaty which can be classified as intangible property. For example, the preamble to the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty provides that legitimate trade between Britain and Yorubaland will be used to develop the resources of the Yoruba. That is an intangible property. That is, whatever benefits comes out of this trade relationship between Britain and Yorubaland will be used to develop the resources of the Yoruba. Another example is Article 1 of the treaty. It provides for peace and friendship between Britain and Yorubaland. Again, this is a property, but it's an intangible property, which is allowed under Nigeria's constitution. Article 2 talks about free trade between Britain and Yorubaland. Article 3 talks about preferential trade. Article 4 allows the Yoruba people to impose tariffs on goods from Britain. Again, these are intangible properties. These are properties, but they are intangible properties. Article 5 says that any disputes and differences between Britain and Yorubaland had to be settled by arbitration. Again, intangible property. And Article 8, of course, provides a quid quo pro. Again, an intangible property. So if the Yoruba say this treaty, we want it to be implemented in our own area of Nigeria, because the trade, the elements of trade, is actually property that belongs to the Yoruba people. So I've outlined the bit of the treaty that is actually proprietary, that is property belonging to the Yoruba people. Let's just look at, so we've talked about facts now. Let us now look about laws. Although I'm not a lawyer, I have qualifications in law, so sometimes I'm able to interpret law. Now, so if we look at Nigeria's trade laws, the Nigerian trade laws are concerned mainly with import and export control, with protective measures, with international commitments, and with the promotion of local content. So the relevant articles of the Britain-Yorubaland Treaty, the relevant bits that I quoted as property before, they do not in any way conflict with Nigeria's laws. There's no conflict between the ownership of the property, of the properties, the intangible property that I've just been talking about, and Nigeria's laws. There's no conflict. So the first section that is relevant, the first section of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution that is relevant is section 12(1). This section of the Constitution is about the domestication of treaty. What it says is that before any treaty becomes law of Nigeria, it's got to be passed by the National Assembly. But Section 12 does not give power of retrospective legislation. So something couldn't have happened that happened in the past, the Section 12.1 does not apply to it because it's already there. Because the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty became Nigeria's domestic law by transfer on the 1st of October 1960, when Nigeria became independent. At independence, Nigeria took over the relevant international commitments of Britain. Because if you remember, Britain was our colonial master. And when they transferred sovereignty to Nigeria, Nigeria therefore acquired all the relevant international commitments of Britain. But Nigeria did not repeal this treaty. And I'm not even sure that Nigeria repealed any treaty that was passed off from Britain to Yorubaland. And Nigeria could have repealed the treaty under Section 3.1 of the revised edition, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria Act 1990. What that piece of legislation said was that the Attorney General, just by a simple order laid before Parliament, could remove any treaty that he doesn't like, could remove any of it. But that hasn't been done. So the second bit of the 1999 Constitution that is relevant, which people point out all the time, is at item 62 on the executive legislative list. This is the bit of the list that refers to trade and commerce, and this upon which only the National Assembly could legislate. But as with Section 12.1 that we were talking about earlier, item 62 does not provide a mechanism for retrospective legislation by which trade that was previously agreed between Britain and Yorubaland could be terminated. In other words, yes, there's a legislative list. That is, the National Assembly has the right or the power to make laws about trade. But that power cannot be retrospective. Once a trade agreement existed, for it to have no effect effect as far as Nigeria is concerned, the Attorney General will have had to have removed it first. Remember under Section 3.1 that I referred to earlier of the revised edition of the Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 1990. So that's Nigeria's trade law. If we now look at international law to ask ourselves, okay, under international law, can Nigeria actually veto this treaty? If you remember, we already talked about the fact that Nigeria was third party. Nigeria was not a signatory to the treaty, and therefore cannot do anything about the treaty. Now, the treaty itself, the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty, is a product of the customary international law, what is called customary international law. Nigerian courts, drawing from the English common heritage, they generally recognize and apply this law as part of Nigeria's domestic law. They will do so as long as it does not violate the 1999 Constitution or any act of the National Assembly. There are no aspects of the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty that violated or has violated these constitutional requirements. The treaty is a product of customary international law. It is a law that is generally recognized and applied in Nigeria as if it was domestic law, but there are no aspects of the treaty that we are talking about that violates the 1999 Constitution. Remember, I talked about Section 12.1 and item 62 of the legislative list. Again, which is part of the thing that I said before, and this bit is important, and I will conclude with this bit. It is this: that the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty could also be viewed from the lens of the Vienna Convention. I'm sure most of you know the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. And the reason why it's particularly important for us as Nigerians, as Yoruba people, is that Justice Elias, I don't know how many of you have heard of him. He was a justice of Nigeria. He was the president of the International Court of Justice, Justice Elias of Nigeria. And as president of ICJ, he was a key figure in negotiating the law of treaties. There was something called a package deal when they were doing the negotiation. And the idea that Elias had then was that he wanted the law of treaties to be applicable to everybody, to every country, and to be the bedrock of the modern treaty law. It's fascinating if you read the genesis, how the law of treaties came about, to read the contribution of Justice Elias. That would it'll make you proud of our judiciary in those days. Now, if we just leave the contribution of Justice Elias aside, the fact of the matter is that Nigeria as a country accepts the principle of the international law of treaties. And Nigeria regards it as standard international practice. And it agrees with what I said right at the beginning, that if you are not a signatory to a treaty, that treaty did not create obligations and rights for you. This is the third party rule. So, as non-signatory to the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty, Nigeria does not possess the capacity to veto the implementation of the treaty. I'm going to stop there so I can allow any questions that might arise. I've deliberately tried to make this as short as I could, so that I could, because the last time it appeared that there are some people still waiting for their questions to be answered. So I'm prepared to answer any questions. I've got my pen. I've got my pen ready. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity of talking to your audience. Thank you.
I think, yeah.
Can you unmute yourself? I can see your lips.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you, sir. I think I'll have some question to ask you.
Okay.
Concerning that. On the first question, you said that Nigeria was not signatory to the treaty, and which is me, during that treaty, Nigerian is not exist. But why Yorubas still find, why we still find ourselves matched to Nigeria during the 1914 amalgamation?
Because Britain did not obey did not implement the treaty.
Okay.
It's not our fault that we were included in the amalgamation.
All right.
The Yorubaland did not consent to be amalgamated. They didn't even ask us anyway. They didn't ask us if we wanted to be amalgamated, and we didn't consent to be amalgamated. They just did it because they had more power. They had stronger military power than we did. And in fact, they assassinated the Alaafin in 1895. They killed him.
Oh, Alaafin was assassinated in
1895.
1895.
Yes, Captain Bauer and his group, they attacked Oyo and killed the Alaafin and the chiefs and everybody.
Okay, which is, if I may ask, since Alaafin was assassinated, So nobody can, there is no person that can pursue the treaty by the British again. So that is why we find ourselves
no, that's wrong. That's totally wrong.
Right,
I mean, sir. Queen Victoria died.
All right, sir.
But that doesn't invalidate the treaty.
The treaty, all right.
Yeah, I mean, the oldest treaty is 1373 between Britain and Portugal. That treaty is still live. The oldest treaty that Britain signed that is written that we know is 1373, and it's still live today.
All right. On my second question, before I don't know if our viewers have any question to ask you. Please, viewer, if you have any question to ask Baba concerning on this, please kindly drop your question so that we can be able to help you ask Baba. If you have any question, please drop it on the comment section. This will really help us to understand our route and where we are really coming from. Baba, my question, you mentioned about the Bakassi Peninsula issue, which which the issue between the Nigeria and Cameroon. I recall that there is a treaty that was signed on the 10th of September 1984, which was signed by the chief of Ekipa and then Ibibo. I think they signed to this treaty in 1835. But yes,
no,
but it's
1884.
Okay, which year that was signed? Because according to my information here, the treaty was signed 1884 by the chief of Equiba and Ibibo, because the Bakassi Peninsula was belonged to
and the king of Calabar.
Yes, it was belonged to Calabar, the king of Calabar.
Yeah, they signed the treaty.
But there is an issue. But according to my findings, after the First World War, according to the British, after the First World War, the Bakassi Peninsula was succeeded to Cameroon in 1961. So,
Can I suggest that anybody who's interested, you actually go and read the case, particularly the dissenting opinion of Justice Bola Abiola. Yeah, Bola Abiola, that's right. And there was another Arab person whose name escapes me. What happened with the Bakassi? If you remember, the Bakassi was part of Nigeria.
Yes.
If anybody remembers, Azikiwe's party was the NCNC. If you remember, National Convention of Nigeria and the Cameroon.
Yes.
And the Cameroons. Because the Cameroon, there's a strip of Cameroon that was part of Nigeria.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, and Cameroon.
That's right. Yes. The Bakassi case was settled on the basis of the Treaty of 1913, Anglo-German Treaty of 1913, and not on the basis of the Treaty of 1884 between the King of Calabar and the British. And the reasoning was that the treaty was not ratified. That's the reasoning. And that is why Justice Abiola, who was yes, it's Bola Abiola, that's right. I mean, I should know because he was my friend when he was High Commissioner in London. You need to read his dissenting opinion, which really reading it shows how brilliant some of our judges in the past were. Really very brilliant dissension. Because he could not, in brief, what he was saying is that he couldn't understand why the German treaty, the European to European treaty, was accepted and not Britain native treaty. But that is not going to happen in the case of the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty, because this was a treaty that was signed on the 23rd of July 1888 and
yes,
ratified 2 years later on the 16th of June 1890. So, and then it was published by the government.
But is it possible to reverse the case?
No.
So, Nigerian lost Bakassi Peninsula to the Cameroon finally.
Well, because Nigeria accepted the Nigeria could have refused. And there's nothing Cameroon
I
will
think
have
during the Obasanjo regime.
Yeah, they accepted the judgment. They could have refused because the two decided. I mean, you really have to read how brilliant Ajibola is, to be honest. Because the dissension, you know, he opposed the judgment, said the judgment was wrong. But if you follow his analysis, it's really brilliant. And then there was another Arab judge who also had a dissenting opinion, which, although not as brilliant as Ajibola, was actually also pretty helpful and analytical. But the cases are different in the sense that
Ajibola.
we are in the court in London, because the treaty is between Yorubaland and Britain. We are in court in London to ask the court in London to recognize the 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty.
But Baba, since Nigeria accepted during the Obasanjo regime, is it possible for another regime to look at the case critically and said, we are not accept the case, and they go back to the court? Is it possible?
Oh yeah, oh yes, because it's possible, but don't quote me. Remember, I told you I'm not a lawyer, although I have qualifications in law. The only case that I can think of that repeatedly came to court is the Chagos Island. You know, the Chagos Island, you probably, Diego Garcia, they've been to ICJ, I think, 2 or 3 times, using different aspects of law. I think in one they were talking about human rights. You see, you cannot attack the judgment the way it is because there is no appeal.
Aspect of the law.
But you can attack it from another. For example, you can attack it from maritime law. So Nigeria could say, we want to revive this case on the basis of maritime law. What they did before was look at the sovereignty. They were looking at sovereignty. Where did the sovereignty of the Bakassi belong to?
Yeah.
But you could this is the beauty of the law.
Yeah.
That because there are aspects of, you know, it's the same basic fact, but the aspects that you attack are different, are narrow. So in theory, remember I said I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want anybody going around quoting me. But in theory, it is possible to go back to the Bakassi case on the basis of maritime law. I'm just giving you an example now, that you could say from maritime law, we want this case revisited. But as I said, please don't quote me on this.
All right.
Because I'm not a lawyer.
All right. Thank you, sir. Let's go back to that 1888 treaty, British and Yorubaland. On that treaty, what are the merits for Yorubaland on that treaty that is so important that the British government should look at the treaty and make it to come to the pass? It was signed by our father, Alaafin Oyo. Because if there is nothing that we need to gain from it, why are we still pursuing that treaty? Why are still eager to mandate the British, to implement the treaty?
Okay. That is another topic entirely, but I'm going to deal with it.
Okay, maybe can because
no,
your time. Okay,
I'm going to deal with it briefly.
The bridge. Okay, maybe by next week then we can dig to deep.
This week is going to be my final week of broadcasting. I'm not available next week for a different reason. Now, the Yoruba land had a legal relationship with Britain.
All right.
The 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty is the document of that legal relationship. Okay? Britain does not have a legal relationship with Nigeria. Although Britain amalgamated Nigeria and then became the colonial masters, there's actually no legal relationship at all between Britain and Nigeria. There's political relationship in the fact of the amalgamation. There's political relationship in terms of colonialism, which actually, by the way, is unlawful. To colonize anybody is actually unlawful, but that's an aside. What is important about this case, which is different from any other treaties that I've looked at in West Africa, is the fact that Britain decided that they were going to have a legal relationship with Yoruba land. So this entire treaty that we are talking about established a legal relationship between Yoruba land and Britain. And in Article 8 of the treaty, which is the quid pro quo article, it made the treaty contractual. That is, there's almost like a contract between Britain and Yoruba land. And what we have gone to court to do is this. We've gone to court to say Britain made certain promises in that treaty. Britain has now frustrated those promises. We want the court to force the government of the United Kingdom to implement the terms of that treaty. Now, we don't know how the judgment is going to go. We shall see. But we as a people, we are entitled to say, you signed a treaty with us, you must abide by that treaty. Remember, Britain signs treaty with all sorts of people. They signed treaty with Europe, with European countries, with China, with America. They obey those treaties. But these people sign treaties with us Africans, and they think they can just walk away. And I think we Africans, the time has come where, at least the generation that is younger than me, the time has come for them to say, no, when you sign a treaty, an agreement with us, you must abide by those agreements. This is accountability. That's what we at the Yoruba Party in the UK are trying to do. We are trying to make the British government accountable for the treaty that they signed with our forefathers in 1888. That is how important that treaty is. A lot of people really don't appreciate how important that treaty is. That they signed a treaty of peace and friendship and trade, non-cession with Yoruba land. We are entitled to go to court to force them to implement that treaty. We're entitled to go to court to say we had legitimate expectations from the promises that you've made in that treaty. You have frustrated those legitimate expectations. We want the court to compel you to abide by the promises that you made. That is how important. And don't forget, part of the importance of that treaty is this, that Britain recognized Yoruba land as an independent sovereign state in 1888. up to 1890, Britain recognized Yorubaland as an independent sovereign state. And they have to go to court and explain to us what happened. What entire you cannot amalgamate something you didn't own. You cannot colonize something you didn't own, because Britain did not own Yorubaland. And the time has come that we Africans need to learn to fight for our rights. You know, we are so docile, we are so timid, we accept almost anything. And people like me are just fed up of this timidity. We're saying that there's no reason for us to be timid. There's no reason for us to be cowardly. You signed a treaty. This is what the treaty says. You ratify the treaty. You publish the existence of the treaty. We want you now to implement the treaty and put in place the promises that you made to us. And I hope in my presentation today, I've demonstrated why Nigeria has no veto at all as far as this treaty is concerned. And the treaty doesn't break any Nigerian law either. There's no law broken. Well, we've got 5 more minutes. If anybody else has any questions.
Yes, you have just 5 more minutes. Thank you, sir. You have explained most of the important area of that treaty, and then which I think it is very important for every one of us to understand that the treaty was signed by the British, and they recognized Yoruba as a sovereign nation in 1888. But still now, in 2025, we are still under the Nigerian control. And the reason why the treaty must be looked at it and then it must be implemented, it is because Yoruba was recognized as a sovereign nation, and the British need to explain this. And then that's the reason why the Yoruba party in UK are working seriously to make sure that the treaty is being looked at it and then it is come to pass. So the reason why the Yoruba party was created in UK is for formidable effort of all the Yoruba sons and daughters. And I'm using this medium to plead to those who are in UK who love Yoruba to be part of this party. Because if you love Yoruba and you want Yoruba to exit from Nigeria, we cannot exist by war. We understand that we will still go by war, but there is a diplomatic way that we need to go about it, which will back up.
Okay.
Just like Pakasi Peninsula. Nigeria ready to fight Cameroon. They will even win the Cameroon when it comes to fight. But what Cameroon did, they went to court. They used court backup, not that to support whatever they have. Exactly that is what Yoruba Party in the UK is doing. The party is already established, they already registered, and they performed in a last general election. And another election is coming on the board. And then the major reason for this party to establish in the first place is to have a say in the UK court of law. Because without joining them, you cannot participate. That is the main reason this Yoruba party was created.
Exactly.
Please,
thank you. Exactly.
Who are in UK. It is high time now to understand the reason why Yoruba party in UK is being created from the source, not to join the politics, not to have an ego, or not to be I'm the one or you are the one, but to pursue the case that belongs to you and I as a Yoruba person, in order to exit from that Nigeria, in order to break the chain that still bind us with Nigeria. And you can see how Baba explained that in order to fight the British, in order to be the part of those who have a say in British, you must be the politics. You must be among those who are making the law.
That's right.
That is
right.
So please, Baba, I want you to use this 5 minutes to explain the main goal of Yoruba party in UK. And for those who are interested to join, how they will contact you, the email, the website, and so on, sir. Please, I think this is very important, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much indeed. And I must acknowledge that it was on your program when we were talking about the Plan B. If you remember, we were discussing Plan B.
Plan B.
All these rallies and writing letters and so on. So we were discussing Plan B, and it is the result of that Plan B that made me to register the Yoruba Party in the UK in February of 2024.
Yeah.
Now, as you were very kind to point out, the primary purpose of the party was to encourage the Yoruba community in the UK to participate in politics. Because everybody talks about what they are going to do to us. We need to be able to say, this is what we want done. I mean, for example, if you look at, there's a debate on immigration right now in the UK. There's no black voice. Everybody is talking over our heads as if immigration into Britain is illegal. They were the ones who came to us. We didn't come to them. They came to colonize us. They came to disrupt our lives. And now they are saying, don't emigrate to us. If you left us alone, we will be where we are. It is very important, I think, this day and age, that we as black people, whether we're Africans or Caribbeans, we need to start to exert ourselves. Look, everybody says Africa is poor, Africa is poor. They come to Africa to come and steal. Can you steal from somebody who is poor? Huh? Can you steal from somebody who is poor?
No.
So
No, you can't.
Exactly.
You only steal from rich people.
So that's what we are trying to make our people to be strong enough, to be courageous enough to fight for their own rights, not to keep quiet and just let everybody, like I said I've been here for 50 years. Like I said to a lot of people, don't deceive yourself when you keep saying, I'm going home, I'm going home. Most of you will never go home. This is your home. You have to fight for your right here. You've got to take part in everything, whether politics, whether socio-economic, whatever it is, because this is where you live. Because none of us knows when we are going to die. So you can't keep thinking the future, and today you just peg it one day and you are dead. So the purpose of the party is to encourage our people to participate. I mean, the local government elections are coming up on the 7th of May, 2026. We are looking for people who are going to stand at that election. The Yoruba Party will back them. We will provide literature, we provide encouragement, we do everything to help you if you wish to stand election. And local council election is relatively easy because it doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is make an application and knock on doors. That's it. So if we are looking for people to join us. If you want to join us, if you go to www.yorubapartyuk.org, you will see a lot of the things I'm talking about now, and also, how to join the party, how to donate. Because, for example, for this court case, we need £50,000. We've got to find the £50,000 from somewhere. And we can only find it from donations. So if you go to our website, www.yorubaparty.uk,
it's a huge money.
That's how much. That's the minimum. That's the minimum for a judicial review. Because don't forget, if we win this case, it is a major
breakthrough.
thing.
Yeah.
It's a major achievement.
Achieve, yes, of course.
if we win this case. And we need, I mean, you know, I wrote the application, but I'm able to do it because I have some knowledge of law. But I don't want to be the one that is going to be in front of the judges to fight our case, because I'm not a lawyer. We need a professional.
I remember that we need up to 10 lawyers at the last time that we need up to 10 professional lawyers.
Yeah, we need professionals who are going to argue our case. Yeah. You don't want me to be doing. I mean, it is, you know, I've appeared before the Court of Appeal before, but that's, I mean, you know, we really need professionals to do this job because it is a big job, and the outcome is big outcome. Because let us confess, if we win our case in the court, it changes everything. Not just for Yoruba land, but because we don't know what treaties they've signed with different African countries either. That everybody will now be, or signed with the Caribbeans. That everybody will now be checking the history books or whatever book they can find, that what treaty did we sign with Britain? So what we are doing is a big thing, and it will, you know, it's to the advantage of every one of us, Yoruba, every one of us. This is to our advantage to fight this case.
By the grace of Olodumare, we will try our best. And I believe that, because I can see the princess had said, if I am in the UK, he said he would like to be part of the Yoruba party in the UK. And I believe that another election is coming up on March 27, 2025, which is local election. Then I believe before then, we will have millions of Yoruba sons and daughters in the UK that will willingly join the party in order to win our election this time, because we even tried the last year. At least we are if not our first running in that election, and thank God that the community really love us. This shows the kind of unity, and don't forget, every nation have their community in the diaspora. It is only Nigerian, or let me say Yoruba people,
the Yoruba people, we are very poor about
ourselves, to gather ourselves and have one voice. We love each other, we know, but to have a community that will fight for each other, it is somehow difficult. That we need to break that chain this time around. That is what brought the Yoruba party in the UK, and the party is doing well, and the party is progressive, as we can see. This is where we drop another the cutting of today's episode. This topic is the 1888 British-Yorubaland Treaty, which is very important in fighting this our struggle of self-determination. Our is Babawa Dr. Olushola Oni Bashegun. Is it the one who has been talking to us this morning? Please, Baba said it is very important for every one of us to go through that treaty. Then I believe if there is a soft copy of that treaty, I will ask Baba to share it with me. Then whoever that need the treaty, please just contact me. I will share it with you also. Or if it is with the treaty is on their website, please kindly go to their website.
It is on our website.
If I have the copy, I will always share it on my website. You can just go to
I'll send you a copy. And also it's on our website. And people who want to read the summary of all the things that I've been saying about the treaty, if you Google it, just Google 1888 Britain-Yorubaland Treaty, you'll be very surprised at a lot of information that is out there now, because we've been doing this roadshow for quite some time now, and it is beginning to appear on A1 or AI, sorry. So if you go to AI and put Britain-Yorubaland Treaty of 1888, you'll be very surprised at the amount of stuff that you'll be able to read, because we've been engaged in a lot of writing, a lot of speaking, a lot of things, in order to enthuse, get our people enthusiastic, This is a fight we can win. This is a fight we can win.
Yeah,
and we
so
mustn't lose it. This is a fight we can win.
So, thank you, sir.
The only thing that I will say is that
again.
Yes.
Yoruba, Baba has been telling us the major important about this treaty and the person of Baba Olushola Oni to Guamosi Ba Shegun Agbaje Indesa. Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí ẹ pẹ́ fún wa. Before we draw the curtain of today's program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. All right.
Okay, this is where we draw the curtain of today's program. We have been discussing for that month now concerning the Yoruba British Treaty, which is very important for every one of us to understand. The reason why we are fighting for this cause is to liberate Yoruba people, is to liberate Yoruba nation, is to exit from the so-called Nigeria. And we cannot do this alone without the proper procedure, which we call diplomatic. And then this treaty, which was signed by Alaafin of Oyo in 1880, the treaty recognized the Yoruba people as a sovereign nation, which gives us the ultimate authority or power to take the British to the court and make sure that they establish and they implement and they pass that law into pass so that we can be able to have our own nation, whereby we will have rest of mind. Nobody is ready to kill us the way things is doing. You can see what is happening in Yoruba land today. It is so pathetic that the issue on ground concerning the Fulani issue have derailed, have reckless our leaders, our hobas, that they cannot even do anything. I saw a video today whereby the king doesn't even have a power over his own community. They arrested Fulani and they called them from Abuja that they should release them with immediate effect in our own land, in our own state. Things is not easy at all. Yoruba are facing a lot of challenges that we need to work together to fight this cause at once. The only way we can fight it is to have the treaties in our hand and then in a favor to Yoruba people. Please, those who are living in UK, please join the Yoruba Party in UK. Yoruba Party in UK established or created in order to fight for Yoruba people, not for ordinary party. Not for just ordinary party. The aim and objective of this party is to fight for Yoruba people and even to fight for our homeland. And when this party achieve their aims, every one of us will be at rest, even though we even force ourselves to go back home because the party have a focus. And then don't forget, Ba Shegun is the only one who took some state to court that they should stop election in Nigeria, that we are not part of Nigeria. We all saw that case maybe about 3 to 4 years ago. That was shown Ekiti, I think, and Ondo State. 3 states was taken to court to stop the governorship election in that state. Those are the parts that this Baba been taking when he was the part of Ilana Omodua.
That's right.
And then it's a collective effort that we need to work on. So please, the new election we took off by March 27,
7th of May.
May 27th of May 2016. Please join, please. It is very important to join us. Those who are living in UK, if you want to be in anything, please join. It is very important. Then we'll work towards that and we'll make sure that Yoruba join that party. Whether you like a politics or you don't like it doesn't matter whether you like a politics. You know, it doesn't matter. Your aim and objective, join this party, support this party, be the part of this party, be the ambassador of this party, so that it will really help us when we are fighting our cause. Yorùbá ní agbẹ́tẹ̀ mi ṣe tán òrìlẹ̀ aró àlùkò mi ṣe tán òrìlẹ̀ òsùn lékèlékè mi ṣe tán òrìlẹ̀ ẹ̀fọ́ ìwó báyìí lòdìdí ará Ìbàdàn ilé àwòdì ìbárìbá ilé àti òrò gbogbo ayé ni wọ́n nìgún ẹ jẹ́ kí ẹ̀fúfù lẹ̀lẹ̀ kó máa gbé àti òrò lọ gbogbo báyìí nílé ẹyẹ àwọn àgbà kókó tó ti fi inú igbó ṣe ilé òkété fúrókìtì ṣe yẹ̀wò omi nílé ẹja bàtà nílé ẹ̀gún ò lè ja òun lè tàgbọ́n a kì í gbà kàtà lọ́wọ́ akití kò sẹ́ni lọ́wọ́ ọmọ títí dìgbà míì tèmi àti yín tá tún máa pàdé lórí àkànṣe tó yí bákan náà mo sọ wípé ó dàbọ̀ ire kàbìtì ire kàǹkà fún èmi àti yín ká sùn láyọ̀ ká jí láyọ̀ ká má sì tó jọ dojúkú àlákàlà mọ̀ ṣe wá orúkọ tí mi padà ọmọ bòrè owó ayé kò tọ́ mọ́ lórúkọ mi ó dàárọ̀.
Ó ti yá o ká jíjọ máa gbọ́ ó ti yá o ká jíjọ máa gbọ́ Yorùbá World Media ni mò ń sọ o. Ó ti yá o ká jíjọ máa gbọ́ Yorùbá World Media ìkànnì tó dúró tán fún jàǹgbara òmìnira ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Yorùbá World Media ìkànnì tó ń gbẹnu ọmọ Yorùbá sọ̀rọ̀ fún òmìnira ilẹ̀ wa. Yorùbá World Media ìkànnì tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ sókè fún òmìnira ìran aládé gbogbo. Yorùbá World Media lórí YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Yorùbá World Media láti darapọ̀ mọ́ wa tàbí tẹ́ ẹ bá fẹ́ bá wa dòwò pọ̀ ní Yorùbá World Media ẹ kàn sí wa lórí www.yorubaworldmedia.com tàbí kẹ́ fi àtẹ̀jíṣẹ́ ṣọwọ́ sí wa látòrí ímeèlì wa info@yorubaworldmedia.com. Yorùbá World Media ìkànnì tó ń ṣojú ọmọ Yorùbá jákèjádò àgbáyé.
Hello.